Bungie used to have the entire gaming world in the palm of their hands, but now, even their most loyal fans are talking about their downfall. This may be their final chance, but to learn their downfall, we'll need to know their past. When you think of Bungie, your mind teleports to one place. Or maybe it's Destiny, but whichever genre-defining shooter it is, that wasn't their start. The company started back in 1991 as a small indie company full of nerdy gamers who had one goal: make fun shooter games, and that's exactly what they did. They created smaller but fun games called Myth and ironically, Marathon. At the time, Bungie made these games exclusively for Mac users, and the shooter game market on Mac was very limited. This made them stand out so much more. Although it was over 30 years ago, Marathon had a real story through in-game terminals, fun features like the ability to dual-wield weapons, network multiplayer over LAN, and even the option to look up and down. Yeah, believe it or not, that was seen as an advancement for that time. Marathon was important not only for its own success, but it truly built the foundation for what was going to come next for Bungie. Crazy enough, with Marathon there was only about 7 to 10 people who worked on this game, with the lead programmer and Bungie co-founder Jason Jones being one of them. It was a tight-knit group who would work out of a Chicago apartment, literally just a group of guys so passionate about something that they created magic from it. They weren't trying to be the biggest, weren't chasing money, they just wanted to make games they thought were cool. Fortunately, this mindset continued with their next project, Myth: The Fallen Lords. However, this time, it ditched the first-person shooter and went for a dark, tactical, real-time strategy game. This hit hard and showed that Bungie wasn't a one-trick pony. With all their small yet influential success, it made them wonder where they could go from there. The eyes were on Bungie and Mac as they went to unveil their new project at Macworld in 1999.
Everything you're about to see is being rendered in real time on a Macintosh using OpenGL.
Steve Jobs unveiling the game we know as Halo is a sight that sounds AI generated, and that's because it never saw the light of day. Microsoft saw Bungie as a goldmine and knew if they didn't take the chance, they'd lose out forever. They bought Bungie, and just like that, history was set into motion. This once small Chicago apartment crew now had their first game launching under the biggest company in the world, Halo Combat Evolved. This game gave purpose to Xbox, and Xbox gave purpose to Halo. They were both synonymous with each other and contributed to both becoming massive hits. A smooth first-person shooter with an incredible sandbox, LAN parties, and a story that made you genuinely care. This, mixed with the innovations of the Xbox, lightning in a bottle. Now they say lightning never strikes twice, but boy did it strike twice and hard. As we've seen from Bungie, they found a formula that works and decided to innovate on that same formula. How could they take what already works and make it better? Simple: Halo 2. It broke records, with everyone stacking up in the city to get it on midnight release, getting coverage from real news sources.
Judging by the scene here at Times Square, New York City, apparently the promise was very real. We're just moments away from midnight, November 9th, and the launch of what is perhaps one of the most anticipated console video games of all time. I'm gonna step aside and let these guys tell you what it is.
This redefined the world of gaming. Halo 2 truly set the foundation of Xbox Live, allowing people to connect with strangers from across the world to battle on some of the most iconic maps. It wasn't technically the very beginning of Xbox Live, but for the majority of people, it really was. It gave people a reason to get an Xbox and furthermore Xbox Live so they can play this incredible multiplayer. Let alone from its epic campaign that landed on a brutal cliffhanger.
You mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
By this point, Bungie had around 120 to 150 employees working on Halo. 3 of these people were still from Marathon's original small team. None of their values had changed, they still had the same view on these games. We make games that we want to play. This felt more true than ever, where this crew you see here would follow up Halo 2 with one of the greatest games that would ever exist.
Hurry! Pull back now! Enemy fire on the tanks. Negative, sir. I think we lost him.
Not yet.
Halo 3. If it were possible for lightning to strike 3 times, this was if lightning struck 9 times all at once on the same spot as it changed everything. The iconic midnight release, partying up with total strangers who'd end up becoming your closest friends, chasing the grind to a 50, and more importantly, finishing the fight. Bungie mentioned that they make games that they want to play, and the proof was in the matchmaking. Whether it was randomly coming across a developer with flaming head, or taking part in Bungieverse World, an event that they hosted that lets you play against them, this team truly made the community feel special. Yet what we didn't know is that this wouldn't last forever. You see, Bungie was about to embark on a whole new journey, one that would inevitably lead to its downfall. It's these moments that built them up, yet it's their next step that might shut them down. We'll explain that as we get closer. For now, we finished the fight and moved on to Halo Reach. This was Bungie's last official Halo, and ultimately a love letter to fans. It was a prequel to the story of Master Chief, and essentially a mic drop. It was different than what we were used to, but it still felt like the game we loved. Remember this for some of their later decisions. Our time with Bungie behind Halo was bittersweet, as we'd gotten so many incredible moments from this team, and we're sad to see them go. Yet we also knew that wherever they went next, we would follow. The crew that made Halo, we hold them close to our heart, so when they announced their next project, we embraced it with open arms. Destiny.
Congratulations. Humans haven't been on the moon in hundreds of years.
This looked different, but in the best way. We wouldn't want another Halo after they'd left, so Destiny seemed like an incredible step forward for them, and it really was. After Halo, they had parted ways with Microsoft, and this was their first part in their 10-year deal with Activision. However, throughout history, Activision has had a reputation for one thing: greed. Perhaps this decision could bite Bungie in the long run, but for now, Destiny was very divisive. It did have massive hype and had wild launch numbers, but it also faced a ton of backlash. Whether people didn't like the story, felt it had cut content, or felt shallow after you beat the campaign, some people were split. Tons of fans actually blamed Activision for rushing the game and cutting some corners. Although fortunately for them, as time went on, this game reserved its spot as an icon and scored another victory for Bungie. Now, Destiny wasn't as big as Halo was, but you still have to ask the question, how do you follow up that success with another game? Well, let's just say that lightning did not strike twice, and instead, it hurt them very badly. Destiny 2 started off strong and had a ton of potential. However, it eventually led to a ton of missteps that made even the most loyal Destiny fans feel burnt out. Some things people complained about were the story and campaign being shallow yet again, or the Crucible that had its issues, but the real big one that everyone had were microtransactions. Whether it was Activision or Bungie making these calls, one thing was for certain: they ruined this game with greed. They went hard on the seasonal model, giving players a constant fear of missing out. People would have to grind repetitive events every 3 months just to keep up. So many cosmetics were locked behind paywalls, giving that feeling that they were designing the game around monetization instead of gameplay. The worst part, they started removing paid content from the game that they called vaulting, which made the entire expansions unplayable. Essentially, players bought content that they could no longer access. Now I know what you're thinking, this can't be the same Bungie that launched Halo 3 with all 5 modes, a fully working multiplayer with 7 playlists, full campaign, and free armor unlocks for all $60, right? Well, no, not really. The original Marathon had 7 to 10 members on the Bungie team, which grew to 120 to 150 by the time of Halo 3. A third of the Marathon team who worked on that game worked on Halo 3. Now for Destiny 2, around 25 to 30 original Bungie members were a part of that game. This doesn't sound bad until you realize that there were 400 to 600 developers at its peak. Tons of senior Halo era Bungie devs had already been gone by this point. In a way, expecting what we once had was unrealistic. Regardless, during this time, instead of fixing what the community wanted, they did something that let even more players down. They began shifting key resources from Destiny 2 to work on their next game. Content began to feel rushed, seasonal quality dropped, and their latest expansion landed flat. The reason they did this? Marathon. It all comes full circle, right? Unfortunately, not at all. When fans initially heard Bungie was bringing Marathon into 2025, the hype was unreal. Could it be that these classic shooter vibes from the 90s are coming back? The buildup was real, and whether it was the Halo team, Destiny team, or now the Marathon team, we felt something special for this one. However, then we heard more.
The art style of Marathon is graphic realism, bold, colorful, stylized art.
It's vibrant, it's beautiful.
When I jump into the game, I'm just like running for my life, but at the same time, I'll be like, oh, this bush is so beautiful. Oh, look at that building. Oh my.
Okay, so nothing like the original Marathon. At least maybe it'll have story mode or some classic first-person shooter feels with PvP. Nope, it would be something way more niche, an extraction shooter. When everyone heard, this hope was still high until they finally revealed the gameplay trailer. Only did the majority of fans completely rip apart the way the art style looked, but also how the gameplay itself looked. It did look slow, and as players mentioned, uninspired. The thing is, working on this game is what led to Destiny 2 fans not getting what they deserved, and I feel this fan said it best. The reason Marathon is being compared to Destiny is simple. Destiny players spent years in good faith supporting Bungie as the quality of D2 fell off a cliff. All for what? This? Really? A minimally viable product that will release in a beta state at a premium. They announced this game won't be free to play and will be a live service, meaning those microtransactions and fear of missing out will follow into their next game. Aside from some reused assets from Destiny, Marathon truly has no similarities to any of their past work. The former Bungie team spent decades building a loyal fanbase, all for these fans to feel like they were left in the dark. Additionally, they put "from the creators of Halo" in the beginning of their trailer, attempting to ride the backs of giants that laid the foundation for their next game. Unfortunately, if this game does fail like the general consensus is saying it will, that could mean it's the end of Bungie, the company we grew up seeing on our TV screens for ages. See, Sony had purchased Bungie in 2022 for $3.7 billion, and it's safe to say the last few years have not been kind to the devs. Of course, this was their own doing. Making a niche game that doesn't even cater to other extraction shooters fanbases, like Escape from Tarkov, is a very risky move. Even furthermore, it won't have proximity chat like leading extraction shooters, all to create a safe environment for players. This was a decision that everyone was enraged over, and especially looking back on the old Halo days, it's hard to imagine. If it does pay off, Marathon may just be the Fortnite of extraction shooters, setting the trend for the next decades of games. Or, if they fail, it will be the inevitable downfall of Bungie.